The Buffalo Bills' path to improving on offense in 2025 is rooted in wide receiver additions and player development.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Well, folks, welcome in. The Bills are on break for about a month. And I use the word break very loosely because these players are absolutely not just going to be sitting around for the next month. They're getting ready for training camp. But the reality is the Bills players are not having OTAs or anything like that, mandatory camp. It's the dead part of the NFL calendar. And in the coming weeks, we're not expecting much in the way of news or quotes, but the podcast goes on for you daily. So we're going to use this time to fully get ready for the season. And I also have some creative concepts to explore in the coming weeks as well. I've been doing this podcast daily since January of 2019. We know how to get through June and July with interesting conversations regarding the Buffalo Bills, and I have some fun stuff planned for this time as well. But with the camp roster basically set, I want to spend today and tomorrow examining each position group and asking the question, is it better compared to 2024? So we will consider the returning players, who's new, who's gone, and ask the question, is it better? And what are the pathways for that position group to improve? So offense today, defense tomorrow. The defensive conversation is going to feel a lot different than the offense, where there's a lot of turnover compared to the offensive side of the football. But let's get into it. I want to start with wide receiver because I think this is where the biggest conversation is to be had about where the Bills offense can get better within its own personnel. And so returning at receiver, you've got three: Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, and Curtis Samuel. Your new players, Josh Palmer, Elijah Moore, and then the Bills drafted Caden Prather in the 7th round and also signed Laviska Shenault, kind of a return specialist. The subtractions here are Mack Hollins and Amari Cooper. Mack Hollins is 32 years old. He signed a 2-year, $8.4 million deal with the New England Patriots. And Amari Cooper, entering his age 31 season, doesn't have a team. He is unsigned as of the recording of this podcast. So is it better? Is minus Mack Hollins and Amari Cooper plus Josh Palmer and Elijah Moore, is that better? I'll be honest with you, I think so. Those are younger players with more attractive skill sets. Mack Hollins, 32, Amari Cooper, 31. Josh Palmer, 26, Elijah Moore, 25. You got younger here. And I know there's a level of disappointment that Mack Hollins didn't come back. But look at it like this. You replace Mack Hollins with Elijah Moore, you get 7 years cheaper. You get more dynamic in terms of the overall skill set, and you do it for half the cost. Mack Hollins at a 4.2 APY, Elijah Moore at a $2.5 million APY. Amari Cooper, I loved when the Bills got Amari Cooper, but as you watched him play last year, you saw the age on the guy, right? Not quite as dynamic in terms of the explosiveness, which took away from the overall skill set. I've been a big Amari Cooper fan for a long time, but I think the age caught up with him last year, and as you can see, the NFL's not necessarily lining up to sign the guy. Still doesn't have a team. So I do like the makeup of this room better this year compared to last. And so I think that's step one in answering the question. It'll be a little bit more complicated with these other position groups where there's not a lot of change. For wide receiver, you got some turnover here. And I like this mix of players better than last year's mix of players. So beyond that, how can it be better? Well, I think it starts with having better separators in Josh Palmer and Elijah Moore. Those are route runners. Those are guys that can uncover, get away from coverage, and present a consistently available target for Josh Allen. And they can win down the field. Thought that was one of the biggest missing elements of last year's receiver core was attractive down the field options. And Marquez Valdes-Scantling was kind of signed to be that, but he just didn't do enough other stuff. And you could tell that Josh and him didn't quite have the chemistry established, which was the case with other players as well, as Josh Allen had a lot of turnover around him, especially in the wide receiver core. But you've improved your separation skills with Palmer and Moore, and you've improved your ability to win vertically down the field. I'm also excited for Khalil Shakir this coming season, who is more established in his role, and I think his role can open up a little bit. Khalil Shakir turned 25 this offseason. He's young. And he very quickly went from day 3 pick that got sprinkled into halfway 2023. He was kind of the leading receiver for this team. And then, of course, last year, a lot more on his plate. And I like what he did for this team last year. Really good in the screen game, yards after catch, efficient. But there's more that Khalil Shakir can provide this offense down the field. I think we saw a lot more of that in 2023. And as Khalil Shakir is solidified in what he's doing, and I think as things solidify around him, you'll have more opportunities to tap into the vertical skill set. You know, Joe Brady likes that slot fade. Khalil Shakir can run it. He can get down the field. And so I'm excited to see how his role opens up as he's more established and things are hopefully more stable around him. Another notable pathway for how this receiver core can be better is the development of Keon Coleman. Plenty of reason to believe he could take a step forward in year 2. Get back to that player we saw pre-injury. Get back to being a player that isn't just a throw it up down the field guy, which is essentially what he became when he came back from injury. And I like some of the off-script moment. I remember the touchdown catch against the Jets, the bomb against the Lions. Those are fun plays, and I anticipate that being a big area where Keon Coleman helps this offense. That's the piece that Gabe Davis really gave this team. But Keon Coleman a little bit more in terms of yards after catch skill. I mean, he was one of the better yards after catch receivers in the league last year. But he didn't get those same opportunities when he came back from injury. I'm looking forward to that stabilizing. Keon Coleman entering year 2 with time on task. There's plenty of reasons to be excited about where that can go. And lastly, with the wide receiver core is Curtis Samuel, healthy for now. And for as much disappointment as I think exists regarding Curtis Samuel, he had some big moments down the stretch. Think about that Colts game. Think about the Kansas City win, right? Big touchdown in that game. Big touchdown against Denver in the playoffs. 4th down touchdown against Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. You've seen how he can be sprinkled in and make an impact for this team. And I'm hopeful that we see those moments more in 2025 as Curtis Samuel is healthy and obviously hopefully more stable in this overall offensive picture. So I thought it was appropriate to start with wide receiver because I think there's the most to get into there. And if you're looking for, from a personnel perspective, how this offense gets better, I think it's what you've done here with the additions of Moore and Palmer, plus a lot of young players settling into their roles and still developing. We'll do the same thing here on the other side of it for the rest of the offensive skill positions, tight end, running back, and quarterback. So folks, be sure to stick with me. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. It's a kind of atmosphere you must experience live, and this year's finals are already delivering. If you want in, Gametime makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest playoff games. Prices on the app actually go down closer to tip-off, and with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and some no surprise fees, Gametime is a total game changer. I love that I can see my exact seat view before I buy. No surprises when you get to the venue. And Gametime also makes scoring NFL tickets just as easy. And with the Gametime guarantee, your tickets are 100% authentic, will arrive on time, and you'll always get the best price with fees included. So what you see is what you pay. If you've never used Gametime to grab NFL seats, now's the time. It's seriously a game day upgrade. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's shift this conversation to the tight end position, where the Bills bring back Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. Your new arrival is Jackson Hawes, the day 3 draft pick out of Georgia Tech. And you lose Quentin Morris. Quentin Morris signed a 1-year, $1.2 million deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And if you remember, Quentin Morris was a restricted free agent for the Bills. And the tender, the amount of money the Bills would have to bring him back under the restricted free agent tender was 1 year, $3.3 million, right? That was obviously going to be an overpay if you did that with him. And so they declined to pick up that tender. He became an unrestricted free agent, and Quentin Morris lands with the Jaguars 1 year, $1.2 million. It's a minimum contract. But I do think Jacksonville's a good spot for him. You know, they don't have Evan Ingram in the mix anymore. They have Brenton Strange, who's kind of their guy, but really the depth behind Brenton Strange is wide open. They have a bunch of bodies, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Quentin Morris make that team. And I think he found a good landing spot for a guy that's probably seeking more opportunity. I think he'll get a chance to do that with the Jaguars. And of course, for the Bills, you know, played every phase of special teams, which cannot be overlooked in what he offered this team. So here's the question. Is it better? Are the Bills better at tight end from a personnel perspective? I think you can pick up that I really like Jackson Hawes. I'm a big fan of the skill set and what he can offer as a tight end 3. But I cannot sit here and confidently say that Kincaid and Knox returning minus Morris and plus Hawes is definitively a better situation. Hawes has never played a snap in the NFL. I like the possibility of where it can go, but I don't know. I don't know yet. I'm optimistic. I think it's a very clean projection, Jackson Hawes in the blocking role that he filled at Georgia Tech to the NFL, but we don't know. So how can this group be better? Well, it is rooted in Jackson Hawes and how he can elevate the tight end 3 role. And I don't know that he's going to come in and get much volume as a pass catcher, but I think there's a lot of snaps for him to play in a blocking role. And Quentin Morris played snaps behind Kincaid and Knox. Mac Hollins played like 100-something snaps of inline tight end for the Bills last year. There are snaps. And that's in addition to Alec Anderson. There's been some commentary that the arrival of Jackson Hawes makes the Alec Anderson 6th offensive lineman role, you know, less. I'm not sure it does. I think it's in addition to. The Bills like to use big people to block in the run game. I don't think they're going to shy away from putting Hawes and Anderson on the field. And there'll be plenty of snaps for both of those guys. So obviously there's where you can get better from a personnel perspective is Hawes does elevate the room. But the other big thing here at tight end is it coming together for Dalton Kincaid in year 3. And I think the biggest obstacle for him last year was health. And then obviously the expectations of stepping into this more prominent role where there was a ton of vacated targets from the guys that left the year before. The good news about Dalton Kincaid is we have 2 years of excellent route running metrics and excellent yards after catch metrics. Excellent, like top 10. The big thing is being healthy and getting the rapport down with Josh Allen. We've been through this a million times. That connection needs to be more consistent and a lot of uncatchable passes. And that's not all just Josh Allen missing throws. Some of that's on Kincaid and probably getting to spots and his lack of health, altering his route tempo. Like there's a lot of things baked into stuff. That's the thing about football. It's never just, hey, it's this one thing. There's a lot of things that go into it. But ultimately, establishing better chemistry with Josh Allen, being healthy, there's a lot of good foundational things to build off of with Dalton Kincaid, given the route running, given the yards after catch, given the hands and ball skills. He can help this offense in a big way. And I feel pretty comfortable believing that Kincaid is going to make an even greater impact in 2025. So you can't necessarily look at the players and say, hey, that's better. But boy, the pathways for it to be better are pretty obvious to me. At running back, the Bills bring back James Cook, Ray Davis, and Ty Johnson, and of course, fullback Reggie Gilliam. What's new here? Really nothing. I mean, even Frank Gore's back. Darrington Evans is back. And of course, the Bills had, this is going to be Darrington Evans' third stint with the Bills, or fourth stint, actually. He was with the team during the offseason and landed on injured reserve. He stayed on injured reserve until October 29th. And then the Bills really didn't have a roster spot for him. So he was released, and then he signed with the Bears on November 6th. And he stayed there for the rest of the season and came back to the Bills. So you're not really losing anything. And it's pretty much the same group with Darrington Evans back in the mix. Is it better? Well, it's the same players. So if you're not going to count on growth, no, it's not better. It's the same. How can it be better outside of, hey, we replace this player with another player that's better? Well, I think it starts with the Bills likely getting the most motivated James Cook that you could possibly imagine. We know what he's seeking in terms of a contract. Doesn't sound like that's going to happen anytime soon. I don't think he has much leverage to do anything else other than go play this season and be highly productive and impactful and get the money you're looking for. I think you're going to see the most motivated imaginable James Cook. I think Ray Davis in his second season can certainly take a big step. And speaking of motivation and incentives, I mean, how about Ray Davis? He's got a big opportunity ahead of him to tell the Buffalo Bills, like, hey, James Cook's great, but I'm here on a rookie deal. I can be your guy. What an opportunity for him. And I think there's some nice ways that he can improve year over year. And I think a lot of that is rooted in how he evolves as a zone runner and develops his footwork and develops his feel. I think there's some opportunity for him to grow and develop, of course, in his second season. And then from the Ty Johnson side of things, I think we know what to expect from him, but it's also the first time in his career that he's really settled into a role. He's been in the league since 2019. And Ty Johnson signs a 2-year extension with the Bills. And for the first time, really, ever for him, he knows what he's getting into. He knows what he's asked to do. He knows what the job is. And I believe that he can improve within that role. That's become more clear for him than ever since he entered the league in 2019. So quite a bit at tight end and running back. You didn't really change much, but plenty of pathways for those position groups to be more impactful in 2025. All right, folks, we got quarterback, offensive line to do. We'll get to that here on the other side of it. Please be sure to stick with me. All right, folks, welcome back. Let's get to the quarterback position before we get to the offensive line. Another position group where it's the same. You're returning Josh Allen, Mitch Trubisky, Mike White, even Shane Buechele. All those guys are back. Nobody's new. Nobody left. Is it better? No, it's the same, right? It's not worse. It's the same. So how can it be better? Well, obviously this is really rooted in Josh Allen, and I'm looking forward to having an in-depth Josh Allen conversation with you probably later this week, where we really talk about his 2025 season and how he can build off of being the reigning NFL MVP. We'll get very specific on that, but I think at a high level, it's continuing with Joe Brady. And Joe Brady's first year as the permanent OC was last year, and he's back, and you can evolve, you can add, you can build. It's not really a foundational year. It's a year of building and adding and tinkering and seeing how you can take this thing to the next level. But also, I think the biggest thing for Josh Allen and where he can be better in 2025, it's not really that Josh Allen's going to become some different player. It's that the elements around him are better. The ecosystem around him is better when you consider the continuity, the upgrades at wide receiver, young players taking a step, the continuity with the coaching staff. Like, that's your pathway. It's those things that will lead to Josh Allen taking a step. But I say, Josh Allen is not going to become a different player. What kind of did last year, right? The complete elimination, essentially, of negative plays, not turning over the ball. It's unbelievable. It's the greatest season we've ever seen in the history of the NFL at taking care of the football and eliminating negative plays. So who am I to say that we can't see a different version of Josh Allen? Because I think we kind of did last year. But again, I thought that was more about what's around him and Josh Allen being the player that was necessary for what's around him. Well, if you like what's around him a little bit better and it unlocks more of the offense, well, then you get more out of Josh Allen. Let's go to the offensive tackle position. You're bringing back Dion Dawkins and Spencer Brown, in addition to depth players and Tylen Grable and Ryan Vandemark. Your new addition here is Chase Lunt, 6th-round pick out of UConn. You didn't lose anybody. So is it better? Well, not really. It's the same people. It's not worse. Personnel's not really different. So unless you're going to assume growth, it's the same. But how can it be better? Well, let's start with the starters, Dion Dawkins and Spencer Brown. That tackle tandem is every bit of a top 5 offensive tackle tandem in the league. And I think both individually are coming off of their best seasons. I'm not going to say that they've peaked. You also have exciting developing depth in Ryan Vandemark and Tylen Grable. Ryan Vandemark now his 3rd season with the team. Tylen Grable, a draft pick in 2024, won the swing tackle job. I love what he showed in preseason. He's a player that I'm very excited about in this offensive line pipeline. There's good developing depth. And then you have this Chase Lunt factor, and we'll see, right? The Bills are returning their top 9 offensive linemen from last year. So I think he's got a bit of a battle ahead of him, assuming no injuries. But can he come in and win a job? Obviously, as a 4-year rookie contract, when you're staring at Vandemark and Alec Anderson being restricted free agents next year, it's pretty much the same situation as Quentin Morris was in. There's probably some attractive elements to Chase Lunt in that rookie contract and being able to hang on to it as a depth player. How does he fit in? Is it a tackle? Does he transition to guard? Doesn't have a ton of length. It's interesting to see how that comes together. But I think he's certainly an X factor in this offensive line equation. Last position group is the interior offensive line, guard and center. You're bringing this back too. Connor McGovern, Osiris Torrance, David Edwards, your starters. Primary backups, Alec Anderson and Cedric Van Pran Granger. Your new addition here is Kendrick Green. Kendrick Green, we've talked about him. He's won starting jobs in the NFL. Very uneven performance, but he's an experienced addition. You didn't lose anybody, so there's no subtractions here. Again, the question, is it better? Well, it's the same people. So if you don't project growth, then it's not better, but it's also not worse. So you have the same interior offensive line, but I think that's how it gets better, is it's the same. It wasn't the same last year. This is the first year where you go year over year with this combination of Edwards, McGovern, and Torrance. It's McGovern's second year at center. It's Edwards' second year at left guard. Dion Dawkins is positioned to have the same left guard next to him for maybe the first time in his career. year 3 for O'Cyrus Torrence, where he's extension eligible after this year. Oh, by the way, McGovern and Edwards are both expiring contracts. We talked about the motivation factor for James Cook. Well, copy paste talking points for McGovern and Edwards, who are positioned to earn probably the most lucrative contracts of their NFL careers. Big year for them, right? What they do this year will define how much that deal is. And then O'Cyrus Torrence being extension eligible. Now, he's still signed through 2026, but that's one to monitor as well. We know the Bills like to get ahead of extensions for the most part. Not every time, but they extended a lot of players after year 3, and I can see Torrence falling in that same bucket. Not to mention you have developing depth here in Alec Anderson and Cedric Van Pran-Granger, who feel like they're on good paths. And I'm not sleeping on Tylen Grable as a potential interior offensive lineman as well, where, I mean, from a measurables perspective, he's literally the same as David Edwards. So I expect to see Tylen Grable get some chances in camp and in preseason to play guard, where he may have a long-term home for this team. So how do we sum this thing up? Well, I think three main points, or as we consider the offense and if it's better in 2025 or if it will be better in 2025. I think you're definitely better at wide receiver. I think you're not definitely worse at any position, but plenty of pathways for growth within the continuity that we talked about and young players that are ascending, but also kind of another prevailing thought in taking the high-level look at this roster year over year is there's not really any regression concerns. There's no aging player that's, hanging on to their last years and you feel like things could decline rapidly. I don't have that fear about any player. You didn't switch over any coaches where you're worried about a coach not being around anymore that maybe helped unlock something in a player. There's no real reason for regression concerns. I mean, you can ask about sustainable elements. Can the Bills once again be that good at protecting the football? Can they be once again that good at running the ball? Can they be once again be that good at eliminating sacks and negative plays? Yeah, there's stuff to be worried about there. Could they get injuries? Yeah, those things could happen. But on paper, I think you like what you have for an offense that was really good, that I've said multiple times, I think has a heck of an argument as the best offensive lineman, as the best offense that the Buffalo Bills have ever put on the field. How do they build on that? I'm excited to find out, but hopefully this conversation was helpful to spotlight some of those opportunities. All right, looking forward to doing this for the defensive side of the football tomorrow, where there's a whole lot of subtractions, there's a whole lot of additions, a whole lot of pathways for improvement. We'll have a good, honest conversation about that for you tomorrow. So don't miss it. Make sure that you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.